Hello everyone, this is my second video for the lesson The Witches. In my last video, I gave you the summary, and this video will start with the hard words. Children, you will copy down these hard words 3 times in your English course copy. Number 1, weather, W-E-A-T-H-E-R, weather. Number 2, tumbling, T-U-M-B-L-I-N-G, tumbling. Number 3, wonderful, W-O-N-D-E-R-F-U-L, wonderful. Number 4, excited, E-X-C-I-T-E-D, excited. Number 5, actually, A-C-T-U-A-L-L-Y, actually. Number 6, happened, H-A-P-P-E-N-E-D, happened. Number 7, believe, B-E-L-I-E-V-E, believe. Number 8, tremendous, T-R-E-M-E-N-D-O-U-S, tremendous. Number 9, disappeared, D-I-S-A-P-P-E-A-R-E-D, disappeared. Number 10, grayish, G-R-E-Y-I-S-H, grayish. Number 11, interesting, I-N-T-E-R-E-S-T-I-N-G, interesting. Number 12, swimming, S-W-I-M-M-I-N-G, swimming. Number 13, remember, R-E-M-E-M-B-E-R, remember. Number 14, quaking, Q-U-A-K-I-N-G, quaking. Number 15, feathers, F-E-A-T-H-E-R-S, feathers. Now we'll start the story. It was in Norway, after celebrating Christmas at my grandmother's place, while my father and mother and I were driving in icy weather just north of Oslo, that our car skidded off the road and went tumbling down into a rocky ravine. My parents were killed. I was firmly strapped to the back seat and received only a cut on the forehead. So, this boy, after celebrating Christmas at his grandmother's place, he and his father and mother, the whole family, was driving back from Oslo to his place. Oslo is the capital of Norway, and it is known for its greenery and museums. So the car slipped when they were returning back from Norway. Their car slipped off the road and it tumbled down into the rocky ravine. Ravine is the narrow valley. And the parents were killed, but this boy, fortunately, did not happen anything to this boy. He just received a cut on his forehead because he was firmly strapped to the back seat. Firmly means securely. He was securely fastened to the back seat with a piece of leather like seat belt. I went back in my grandmother's house with her arms around me tight and both of us crying the whole night long. "You will stay here with me," she said, "and I will look after you. Am I not going back to England?" "No," she said. "I could never do that. Heaven shall take my soul, but Norway shall keep my bones." So this boy was taken back to his grandmother's house and they held each other tightly. They cried the whole night because the parents were killed. And now the grandmother said that you will stay here with me and I will look after you. To this the boy asked, "Am I not going back to England?" He was thinking that now he will not go back to England, and he has to stay with her, with his grandmother. To which grandmother said, no, you will not go back to England, you will stay with me. The grandmother here expresses her unwillingness to leave Norway because she lived in Norway and she never wanted to leave this place. She does not want to leave Norway, the place where she lives, and she wants her grandson, the boy who lost his parents, to stay with her. The very next day, in order that we might both try to forget our great sadness, my grandmother started telling me stories. She was a wonderful storyteller, and I was enthralled by everything she told me. So the next day, the grandmother wanted to tell a story to her grandson, so that they forget the great tragedy which happened with them. And this boy knew that his grandmother is a great storyteller, and he was very much excited. He was very much interested. Enthralled means very much interested in listening whatever his grandmother told him. But I did not become excited really until she got onto the subject of witches. She was apparently a great expert on these creatures. So this boy wanted to hear the story of witches because he knew that his grandmother is expert in telling stories about these creatures. Everything she was telling me about witches had actually happened, and I had better believe it. What was worse, what was far, far worse, was that witches were still with us. They were all around us, and I had better believe that too. Now, grandmother was telling him about the witches, and which he believed lived with us. The boy believed that witches are all around us, and he knew that his grandmother is great in telling the stories about witches. You must listen to me, my grandmother said. You must remember everything I tell you. After that, all you can do is cross your heart and pray to heaven and hope for the best. So here grandmother says that you have to listen to me and you must remember whatever I tell you. Cross your heart. We say cross your heart when we want someone to believe that we are telling the truth. And grandmother wants the boy to believe her and pray to God and hope that everything will be good. We were in the big living room of her house in Oslo, and I was ready for bed. They were living in the grandmother and grandson, they both were living in Oslo, that is the capital of Norway, and they were ready to go to bed. The curtains were never drawn in that house, and through the windows I could see huge snowflakes falling slowly onto an outside world that was as black as tar. My grandmother was tremendously old and wrinkled. Myself, just 7 years old, was crouched on the floor at her feet, wearing pajamas, dressing gown and slippers. Now the boy was ready to hear a story from his grandmother. His grandmother was weak, was old, and was tremendously means very old, and wrinkled. She was having wrinkled on her face. And this boy was 7 years old, and he was sitting on the floor at her grandmother's feet, as you can see on the pic. The boy was wearing pajamas, dressing gown and slippers. And he was saying that the curtain was never drawn in that house, and he could see the snowflakes through the windows. Snowflakes are the pieces of snow. Ice. Listen, she said, I have no known no less than 5 children who have simply vanished off the face of this earth, never to be seen again. The witches took them. I still think you are just trying to frighten me, I said. Now, grandmother said that I know 5 children who were simply vanished, disappeared from the earth, and they were never seen again. They vanished. Vanished means disappeared, and they were never seen again. And you believe that the witches took them. And to this the boy said, I think you are just trying to frighten me. I'm trying to make you sure you don't go the same way she said. I love you and I want you to stay with me. To which grandmother said that I don't want to frighten you. I'm just trying to tell you that you too don't go the same way as the witches took those children, because I love you and I want you to stay with me. So whatever story I am telling to you, listen carefully and remember not to go out and get disappeared in the same way as the children disappeared. Tell me about the children who disappeared, I said. Now the boy wanted to know about the children who disappeared. How did they disappear? The first child I knew who disappeared, she said, was called Ragnhild Hansen. Ragnhild was about 8 at the time and she was playing with her little sister on the lawn. Their mother, who was baking bread in the kitchen, came outside for a breath of air. Where's Ragnhild? She asked. She went away with the tall lady, the little sister said. What tall lady? The mother said. So, the first child who disappeared was Ragnhild. She was 8 years old and she was playing with her sister. And when mother came out to ask about Ragnhild, the sister said that she went away with the tall lady. To which mother was surprised. What tall lady? The tall lady in white gloves, the little sister said. She took Ragnhild by the hand and led her away. So the tall lady was wearing white gloves and she took Ragnhild by her hand and took her away. No one, my grandmother said, ever saw Ragnhild again. What happened to the other 4 children? I asked. And now grandmother said that nobody saw Ragnhild after that incident. Where she disappeared with that woman, nobody knows. Now this boy asked to his grandmother, what about the other 4 children? I want to know about them too. The second one was very peculiar, my grandmother said. There was a family called Christiansens. They had an old oil painting in the living room which they were very proud of. The painting showed some ducks in the yard outside a farmhouse. There was no people in the painting, just a flock of ducks on a grassy farmyard and the farmhouse in the background. Now what happened to the other 4 children? The second one was very strange. There was a family called the Christiansens. Christiansens is a surname which means the son of Christians. So this family had an old painting in the living room and the painting had some ducks and a farmhouse, and there were no people in that painting, just the duck and the farmhouse. Well, one day their daughter Solveig came home from school eating an apple. She said a nice lady had given it to her on the street. The next morning, little Solveig was not in her bed. Then all of a sudden her father shouted, "There she is! That's Solveig feeding the ducks." He was pointing at the oil painting, and sure enough, Solveig was in it. She was standing in the farmyard in the act of throwing bread to the ducks out of a basket. The father rushed up to the painting and touched her. But that didn't help. She was simply a part of the painting, just a picture painted on the canvas. So, one day when Solveig was coming home from school, she ate an apple which was given to her by a lady, that lady was very nice. And the next morning, when the parents was searching for Solveig in the bed, she was not there. Then father saw that Solveig was turned into a painting. She was with the ducks. She was feeding the ducks the paint which they had in their living room. And then father rushed to the painting. He touched her, but it could not help because she became the painting. That's two you have told me about, I said. What happened to the third one? Now the boy was very excited. He said that only two you have told about. What happened to the next one, to the third one? The third one was little Birgit Svensson. My grandmother said, one day she started growing feathers all over her body. Within a month, she had turned into a large white chicken. Her parents kept her for years in a pen in the garden. She even laid eggs. What color eggs? I said. Brown ones, my grandmother said. So the third one was Birgit Svensson. Grandmother said the third boy, whose name was Birgit. One day, what happened? He started growing feathers all over his. Oh, this was a boy. This was a girl, not a boy. Birgit Svensson was a girl. One day, she started growing feathers all over her body, and within a month, she turned into a chicken. And the parents kept her in the garden in a pen. Pen is the home for the shelter made for the chicken, where the chickens are kept or hens are kept. That place is called home of chicken or hen, is called pen. So they kept them in the pen. They kept Birgit in the pen, and she started laying eggs, to which grandmother said she laid brown eggs. What happened to the fourth child? I asked. The fourth was a boy called Harold. My grandmother said, one morning his skin went all greyish yellow, then it became hard and cracky like the shell of a nut. By evening the boy had turned to stone. Stone? I said. You mean real stone? Granite, she said. Now the fourth boy was Harold, and one morning he turned into greyish yellow color, and slowly he became hard, and he changed into a stone. The stone was granite. Granite is a stone which is used in buildings and making jewelries. You told me there were 5 altogether. What happened to the last one? What about number 5, grandmama? Now the boy wanted to know about the 5th child. Number 5, she said, was rather an interesting case. A 9-year-old boy called Lev was summer holidaying with his family on the fjord. It is spelled as fjord. J is silent. And the whole family was picnicking and swimming off some rocks on one of those little islands. Young Lev dived into the water, and his father, who was watching him, noticed that he stayed under for an unusually long time. When he came to the surface at last, he wasn't Lev anymore. He was a porpoise. So fjord, as spelled, it is F-J-O-R-D, but we pronounce it as fjord. Fjord is a deep, narrow body of water which is found mainly in Norway, Canada, and New Zealand. And this boy Lev was holidaying with his family on this place, and the whole family was picnicking and swimming on that place. And after some time, when father noticed that Lev is not coming out of the water, then at last when he came out, he was a porpoise. Porpoise is an animal that looks similar to dolphin. So the 5th boy changed into a porpoise. But wasn't there a most tremendous fuss when this happened? I asked. Not much, my grandmother said. You must remember that here in Norway we are used to that sort of living, that sort of thing. There are witches everywhere. There is probably one living in our street this very moment. It's time you went to bed. So this boy said, so many children were lost, they disappeared. So nothing happened Nobody uh, said something about this. Nobody make uh, any fuss about these things. Fuss means talking about small things in a huge way. So grandmother said, no, this happens. This is a normal thing in Norway. There are witches everywhere in Norway, and presently one witch is there in our street also. So now it's time for you to go to bed. So this was normal in Norway. There are witches everywhere in Norway. A witch wouldn't come in through my window in the night, would she? I asked, quaking a little. Now the boy was shivering. Quaking means shivering, shaking with fear. So the boy was shaking with fear, and he asked that, can the witch come in through my window to my bedroom? No, my grandmother said. A witch will never do silly things like climbing up drain pipes or breaking into people's houses. You will be quite safe in your bed. Come along, I will tuck you in. To which grandmother said, no, the witches won't come into our house. We are safe in our house because they don't enter through drain pipes, through windows. They don't enter the house. If you are inside your house, you are safe. If you go out, you have to be careful. So I don't want to lose you. You come to me and you obey me, and you don't go out of the house. I will tuck you in means to make someone secure in bed for sleep by tucking the edges of the blanket. So she tucked her inside the blanket and made him sleep. So this is all about the story, The Witches, which is part 1 of the novel. This lesson is part 1 of the novel The Witches by Roald Dahl. I hope you have understood the story. Read the story 2 times and learn the hard words. Thank you.